Happy Sabbath.
Sabbath.
So the memory verse and the vision of the evening and the morning which was told is true. Whatsoever shalt thou of the vision, for it shall be for many days.
El hermano leo el versículo de memoria.
Every nation has had its period of test. Each has failed. Its glory faded. Its power departed.
Dice la nota, cada nación tuvo su plazo de prueba, cada uno fracasó, su gloria se desvaneció y desapareció su poder.
And the study is called a succession of kingdoms.
The what?
A
Succession.
succession of kingdoms. Okay, so Sunday 1, the ram becomes great.
Domingo, el carnero se engrandece.
Near the end of Babylon's supremacy, what did Daniel see? Daniel 8, 1 and 2.
Casi al final de la supremacía de Babilonia, ¿qué vio Daniel?
Any comments?
He saw a ram. But it says here that it's in the third year of the king Belshazzar.
Well, I read verse 1 and 2, and I don't see what exactly he saw.
Yeah. It's on a vision.
He doesn't say what was it. He wasn't where he was.
Yeah.
He said he was right there by the river.
When and where?
Yeah, but he doesn't say what did he see. He doesn't say what was it.
Y en los versículos de Daniel 8, 1 al 2, dice que nomás enseña dónde estuvo Daniel, que estuvo cerca del río, pero no, en sí no dice la visión que tuvo él.
The next question.
Okay, so B. Describe the behavior of the first beast that came onto the scene and became great.
Dice, describa el comportamiento de la primera bestia que apareció y se engrandeció. Daniel 8, 3 y 4.
Daniel 8, 3 through 4.
I can read it in Spanish.
Thank you.
Dice, y alcé mis ojos y miré, y aquí un carnero que estaba delante del río, el cual tenía dos cuernos, y los dos cuernos eran altos, pero uno era más alto que el otro, y el más alto subió a la postre. Vi que el carnero veía con los cuernos al poniente, al norte y al sur, y que ninguna bestia podía mantenerse de pie delante de él, ni había quien librara de su mano, y hacía conforme a su voluntad, y se engrandecía. So he's talking that he saw a ram, if I'm not mistaken. See the reason?
A ram.
And I said it has two horns as normal, but this is one, it was ready. One of the horns it was a little bit bigger than the other one. And he has a lot of power. And he said, he was basically conquered, all around him. That he was doing everything he wanted with a lot of power.
Entonces en este versículo miramos que el carnero tenía ese extra cuerno y que dominaba toda esa región.
Yeah, in Bible prophecy, I am will meant a certain country, and also horns means power. Okay?
Y el cuerno en ese contexto significa poder.
See, how did the angel interpret the ram that Daniel had seen? Daniel 8, 19 through 20.
¿Cómo interpretó el ángel al carnero que Daniel había visto? Versículo 19 a 20.
Y dijo, he aquí yo enseñaré lo que ha de venir en el fin de la ira, porque al tiempo señalado el fin se cumplirá. Aquel carnero que dices que tenía dos cuernos son los reyes de Media y de Persia.
The verses say, and he said, behold, I will make thee know what shall be in the last end of the indignation. For at the time appointed the end shall be, the ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia.
So, any thoughts about Media in Persia? Yes.
Yeah, first of all, Daniel sees this vision in the third year of the king of the last king of Babylon.
En estos versículos podemos ver que Daniel mira esta visión en el tercer año del reinado del rey Belshazzar.
And if we see he was the last king of this reign of this kingdom,
Y él fue el último rey de esta nación.
if we compare with the story with the history, we will see that he started to reign at the year 553.
Y,
53, 53.
y si miramos a la historia, él comenzó a reinar en
553.
no puedo decir en español.
553.
550, gracias.
But looks like Daniel had this vision at the year around 550.
Pero Daniel tuvo esta visión durante
550.
550.
550. But as we read at the first question, it says that at the end of the supremacy of Babylon, it means that Babylon was about to end, and then Medo-Persia was coming. That's why the vision was now focusing not in Babylon. For example, in Daniel 2, in Daniel 7, we see Babylon in the prophecy, but now we don't see Babylon anymore because it's now about the next kingdoms, and it's Persian and Greek. Greece.
Y podemos ver con la primera pregunta que dice casi al final de la supremacía de Babilonia, entonces sabemos que este reinado ya se iba a acabar y iban a seguirle los medios y los persas.
Okay. Any more comments before we go to Monday 2? The very great goat. A. What new power came to challenge Medio in Persia? Daniel 8, 5 and 21.
En el lunes dice, el macho cabrío engrandecido. ¿Qué nuevo poder vino a desafiar a Medo y Persia? Daniel 8:5 y Daniel 8:21. I have it in Spanish. It says, Daniel 5 says, y mientras yo consideraba, he aquí un macho cabrío venía de la parte del poniente sobre la faz de toda la tierra, el cual no tocaba la tierra, y aquel macho cabrío tenía un cuerno notable entre sus ojos. Y el 21, y el macho cabrío es el rey de Grecia, y el cuerno grande que tenía entre sus ojos es el rey primero. And I think I can do it in English too. It says, and as I was considering, behold, a he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And the rough goat is the king of Greece, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king.
Any thoughts?
No, we will see only that every kingdom is, or every kingdom was, or had, as you read, his time of test. Its time of test. Well, Persia was about to end as well.
Miramos que todos los reinados que enseñan aquí tuvieron su tiempo de turbulencia y su prueba.
B. Describe the conquering power of the king of this new empire. Daniel 8, 6 and 7.
Y vino hasta el carnero que tenía los dos cuernos, al cual yo había visto que estaba delante del río, y corrió contra él con la ira de su poder. Y lo vi que llegó junto al carnero, y se levantó contra él, y lo hirió y quebró sus dos cuernos, porque en el cuerno no había fuerza para pararse delante de él. Lo derribó por tanto en tierra y lo pisoteó, y no hubo quien librase al carnero de su mano.
Any thoughts about what just happened?
Well, I like the first part of the note. Me gusta la primera parte de la nota. It says, the power exercised by every ruler on earth is heaven imparted. and upon his use of the power thus bestowed, his success depends. To each the word of the divine watcher is, I girded thee, though thou hast not known me. And to each the word spoke to Nebuchadnezzar, of old are the lesson of light. Break off thy sins by righteousness, and thine iniquities by showing mercy to the poor, if it may be a lengthening of thy tranquility. And in Spanish it says, el poder que ejerce todo gobierno en la tierra se le otorga al cielo, y su éxito depende de cómo lo ejerce. El atalaya divino dice a cada cual, yo te seguiré, aunque tú no me conociste. Y para todos constituyen una lección de vida las palabras dirigidas a Nabucodonosor. Redime a tus pecados con justicia y tus iniquidades haciendo misericordias con los oprimidos, pues tal vez será eso una prolongación de tu tranquilidad. So, I like this part because sometimes we get really stressed because, kings, presidents, we think, well, they're not going to do a good job. We have all of those worries. But here is telling us that God, at the end of the day, he's in control of this, and he's letting it pass for a reason. He's allowing that person to be in power. So we should be more calm in that aspect,
Yes, Brother Dan?
The last paragraph, I'm going to read it in Spanish because it's very important. Also, dice, únicamente en la palabra de Dios que está esto es claramente expuesto. En ella se muestra que la fuerza de las naciones, como la de los individuos, no se encuentra en las oportunidades o medios que parecen hacerlos invencibles, ni tampoco en su pregonada grandeza. Se mide por la fidelidad con que cumplen el propósito de Dios. Está hablando acerca de las naciones, ¿verdad? Como en aquel tiempo Babilonia fue el imperio más grande del mundo. Ellos creían que su grandeza pues iba a ser por siempre.
And here this relates to the kingdoms that we are reading about. In Babylon, it was one of the greatest kingdoms.
Pero sabemos que Dios permite que las naciones se engrandezcan un tiempo.
And we see here that the Lord allows these kingdoms to grow strong and large.
Pero también si las naciones no son fieles a Dios, caen.
But when the nations aren't faithful to the Lord, that's when they fall.
Lo mismo en las iglesias también.
And also with churches, we fall.
Okay, let's go to C. What happened to the Grecian Empire when it became very great at the height of the career of Alexander the Great? Daniel 8:8-22.
La pregunta se dice, ¿qué sucedió al imperio griego cuando se engrandeció en el apogeo de Alejandro Magno? Daniel 8:22.
Okay. Y el macho cabrío se engrandeció en gran manera y estando en su mayor fuerza, aquel gran cuerno fue quebrado y en lugar subieron otros 4 cuernos notables hacia los 4 vientos del cielo.
It says, therefore, Behica waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came out 4 notable ones towards the 4 winds of heaven. In Daniel 8:22, now that being broken, whereas 4 stood up for it, 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power.
And what I remember from the note, I just don't really remember. I'm just going to paraphrase that it's much easier to conquer kingdoms than to conquer yourself. And
En alguna parte de la nota dice que es más difícil controlar a ti mismo que controlar un reino.
And that was one of the problems with Alexander.
Y ese fue el problema de Alejandro el Magno.
And also the fact that when he did pass at early age, his son was way too young to rule, and the fact that his kingdom was split into 4, amongst his 4 generals.
y murió a una edad muy temprana y eso causó que su hijo no podía heredar el reino y sus 4 generales lo heredaron.
Oh, actually, I found it. I think I found it. Alexander and Caesar found it is easier to subdue a world than to subdue themselves.
Dice Alejandro y César encontraron más fácil subyugar el mundo que someterse a sí mismos.
After conquering nation after nation, they fell one of them the victim of intemperance, the other of mad ambition.
Después de vencer a una nación tras otra, cayeron, uno de ellos víctima de la intemperancia, el otro de una loca ambición.
So at the end of the day, our own worst enemies ourselves.
Y al final del día, nuestros peores enemigos somos nosotros mismos.
So, any thoughts and comments?
Yes, Alexander the Great was 32 when he died. And it's really impressive that he was able to accomplish all of that, build up the empire by the time he was 32 years old, but at the same time it shows us how important it is to have temperance even with good things, right? In his case, I believe he died from drinking too much.
Yeah,
I think that was his issue.
I believe that was his issue.
Yeah, so he drank too much, and as it says here also, Caesar, his issue, it says, was an ambition. So he had such a strong ambition to be the best that it got the better of him. And I believe it was his adopted son, I think, which was Brutus, which was the one who ended up killing him. So it showed just how much that his awful character and the other ones in temperance were their own selves are what brought them this horrible destination. Very interesting.
Any more thoughts before we go to Tuesday?
I'll translate it real quick. Estaba mencionando que el Alejandro el Magno murió a los 32, una edad muy temprana y pudo hacer mucho en ese poquito tiempo de su vida, pero hizo más para destruirse a sí mismo.
Tuesday, exceedingly great. A. What new power is described as taking over the divided Grecian Empire? Daniel 8, 9, and 23.
El martes, sobremanera grande. ¿Qué nuevo poder es descrito tomando el lugar del imperio griego dividido? Daniel 8, 9 y 23.
Y de uno de ellos salió un cuerno pequeño, el cual creció mucho al sur y al oriente y hacia la tierra gloriosa. En Daniel 8:23. Y al fin del reinado de estos, cuando los transgresores hayan llegado a su colmo, se levantará un rey altivo de rostro y entendido en enigmas. Entendido en enigmas.
Daniel 8, 9, it says, and out of the one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great, toward the south and toward the east and toward the pleasant land. And 23, and in the latter time of their kingdom, then the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up.
Let's go to B. Describe the actions of Rome, both pagan and papal, that Daniel saw in the vision. Daniel 8, 10 through 12, and also 24.
Before moving on, I would like to comment.
Okay.
In different places or different interpretation of this first question,
En diferentes interpretaciones de esta primera pregunta,
many people do believe that it's about a Greek king.
muchos piensan que se refiere a un rey griego.
And because his name was Antiochus IV Epiphanes.
The king, el rey que se llamaba
Antíoco IV Epífanes. Okay. And this king, how to say, this king oppressed the Jewish people.
Y este rey oprimió mucho a la gente judía,
He killed many of them,
mató a muchos,
and even he, how to say, he interrupt the sacrifices of the temple of Jerusalem.
y fue uno que interrumpió los sacrificios del templo.
That's why many people believe, oh, this other horn is this king,
Y por eso la gente piensa este cuerno es ese rey,
because looks like he did what Daniel describes in the chapter 8.
porque parece que hizo lo que Daniel describe en el capítulo 8.
But if we pay attention on the verses that sister read about this,
Pero si miramos en los versículos que leyó la hermana,
for example, it says in the verse 9, it says, and out of one of them came, well, first of all, one of them. Where, when you read the verse 8,
en el versículo 9 dice que y de uno de ellos salió un cuerno. Y si miramos en el versículo 8,
where it says one of them, what does it mean?
uno de ellos, ¿qué significa esto?
We have two choices. When we say them or we say they.
Tenemos dos opciones cuando decimos ellos.
Because it could be the four, let's see, the four horns of the verse 8,
Puede ser uno de los cuatro cuernos del versículo 8
or the four winds that we also see on this verse.
o de los cuatro vientos que miramos en ese versículo.
But if we pay attention with the geography and the history,
Y mirando la geografía y la historia,
we will see that those Greek kingdoms,
miramos que esos reinados griegos
they were distributed to the four winds.
fueron distribuidos a los cuatro vientos.
But they were over as well.
Pero para este tiempo ya se habían acabado.
Something else here is that this little horn came from one of the wind, not from one of the other horns.
Miramos que escudriñando bien vemos que este cuerno pequeño vino de los vientos, no de los otros cuernos.
Because when we see how for example, it says here, which was exceeding great toward the south.
Porque en el versículo 9 dice que el cual creció mucho al sur.
And the kingdom of the king that I told you that he oppressed the kingdom, the Jewish.
Y hablando de ese rey que había oprimido mucho a la gente judía,
He didn't wax toward the south. He didn't wax toward the south.
él no había estado hacia el sur.
He didn't toward the east.
O al oriente tampoco.
And we see who did this one, Rome.
Miramos con estas indicaciones que fue Roma.
Also, if we pay attention in the verse 23, verse 22, it says, now that being broken, whereas stood up for it, for kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power.
Y en
Verse 22.
Y el versículo 22 dice, y en cuanto el cuerno que fue quebrado y sucedieron cuatro en su lugar, significa que cuatro reinos se levantarán de esa nación, mas no con la fuerza de él.
When Alexander died, we have seen that his empire was distributed for the four generals of him.
Cuando Alejandro murió, su reino fue dividido con los cuatro generales.
But then it says in 23, and in the latter time of their kingdom, it says here different. It says here at the end of the kingdom of them.
Y el 23 dice, y al fin del reinado de estos,
it means that they were going to have their end as well.
sí significa que para ese entonces ya habían tenido su fin.
So the Greek kingdoms had the end,
Los reinados griegos tuvieron su fin.
and then appeared another king, another kingdom,
Y aparte apareció otro reinado.
and this was Rome. That's what I wanted to explain.
Okay.
Ese ya se pone.
Okay, then let's go to B. Describe the actions of Rome, both pagan and people, that Daniel saw in the vision. Daniel 10 through 24. Daniel 10 through 12, and also 24.
Describe las acciones de Roma, tanto pagana como papal, que Daniel vio en su visión. Daniel 8, 10 al 12 y 24.
I can read it. Daniel 8, 10 to 12. Dice, y se engrandeció hasta el ejército del cielo, y parte del ejército de las estrellas echó por tierra y las pisoteó. Aún contra el príncipe de la fortaleza se engrandeció, y por él fue quitado el continuo sacrificio, y el lugar de su santuario fue echado por tierra. Y el ejército le fue entregado a causa de la prevaricación sobre el continuo sacrificio, y echó por tierra la verdad, e hizo cuanto quiso, y prosperó. Y su poder se fortalecerá, mas no por su propio poder, y destruirá maravillosamente y prosperará, y hará arbitrariamente y destruirá a los fuertes y al pueblo de los santos.
I'll read it in English. It says, and it waxed great even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. And a host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. And 24, and his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power, and he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper in practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people.
I mean, we know about, in history, Rome is trying to convince, people that they can change, God's law. They have the authority and they can have, the power to change even, what God established in His word.
Y Roma, la iglesia romana estaba y enseña que puedes cambiar la palabra de Dios.
Especially, in the change that they did, from the Sabbath day to the Sunday day.
Especialmente el cambio que hicieron de sábado a domingo.
When I went to the funeral on Wednesday, Rosman, to my friend's daughter, I saw they had the Ten Commandments right there outside the Catholic Church, but I was trying to take a picture, but I don't want to take a picture because there was a lot of people, around me. But they don't say nothing about the Sabbath anymore, and they change, the first and the second commandments.
Santificar las fiestas.
Yeah.
Esta semana fui a un funeral de una muchacha de un amigo, y afuera de la iglesia católica estaban los 10 mandamientos, y traté de tomarle una foto, pero había mucha gente, pero no incluyen el versículo de sábado, nomás los cambiaron y le añadieron uno, ellos mismos.
Yeah, and a lot of people, they say, no, that's not true. But you go to the source, the original source, in the Catholic Church, they say, yes, we did. The Catholic Church, they say, yes, we did. We changed it. We had the authority. But a lot of religions, they said that's not true. And the Protestants, they said, that's not true. But there's a scripture, in that where it says, yes, the Catholic Church, it has the power and the authority to change that.
Y si buscan ustedes en los récords de la Iglesia Católica, admiten que ellos cambiaron ese versículo y que lo removieron de los 10 mandamientos, iglesias protestantes que también hacen servicios en domingo dicen que no, que así estaba, pero la iglesia católica dice que ellos tienen el poder de cambiarlo y no lo niegan.
And the different denomination churches that depart from the Catholic Church are still keeping some of the Catholic practices.
Y muchas iglesias que salieron de la iglesia católica todavía mantienen muchas de las tradiciones y cambios que hizo la iglesia católica romana.
And also it says in the Bible, times and laws will be changed. And what is the time and law? The Sabbath in the Ten Commandments.
And the reason because they changed it was actually Constantine, the one that he changed it. And he changed it because he said, it was more important, to keep the Sunday, because during the Sunday it was the day when Jesus resurrected from the tomb. That was his reason. But we know that what God established, especially the Ten Commandments, they are forever. That's the main thing.
And it does not say anywhere in the Bible that God approved Sunday.
Y la iglesia católica romana, el Papa Constantino fue el que cambió y dijo que era más importante obedecer o guardar el domingo porque fue cuando Jesús resucitó.
Okay, yes.
Y algo curioso, cuando yo era católica,
And something interesting because when I was Catholic,
yo podía ir el sábado en la tarde a la misa de 7 y te valía entonces no ibas al domingo porque ya había sido en la noche del sábado.
You could go to Mass as the 7 o'clock Mass on Saturday night and you wouldn't have to go to the Sunday Mass.
Y tú ya habías cumplido con el domingo.
And in theory, they say that you had already accomplished, you had rendered devotion to God as if it were Sunday.
Entonces, ellos, era el domingo, el de guardar el domingo era de puesta de sol de sábado a puesta de sol del domingo.
And for them, keeping the Sunday was from Saturday sunset to Sunday sunset.
Y a mí se me hacía curioso, ¿verdad? ¿Cómo voy a venir el sábado si para el domingo y ya el domingo ya no vengo? Pero, ¿cómo se dice? Pero es curioso de que lo tomaron igual que el sábado, puesta de viernes a puesta de sábado.
And for me at the time, it didn't make sense that I could go on Sabbath to worship and that it would count for me as going to Sunday. But, they made their own rules, but they still applied that rule of sunset to sunset.
Y lo entendí cuando conocí el sábado.
And I finally understood it really when I learned about the Sabbath.
Even many people who don't keep the Sabbath,
Mucha gente que no observa el sábado
but they worship God on Sunday.
y observan a Dios en el domingo.
They don't feel that they are obligated to keep the Sunday.
No se sienten obligados en sí a adorar el domingo.
If they have to work, they work.
After the church, after the church service, they go to work, they go to buy, they go to do everything.
Después del domingo, de cualquier cosa se van a trabajar, a hacer compras, etc.
Eso no es el
They don't keep the Sunday. They worship on Sunday, but they don't keep on Sunday.
Sí, exacto.
Yeah, well, that's most of the people that say, it doesn't matter, which day you keep, because they think, that what God says is just your heart.
Your heart, yeah.
But it is correct. God, He sees our heart.
But it requires obedience.
But it requires the obedience, what is that really.
But the heart is not hidden and anyone else cannot see.
Yeah.
It's not like that. It's the heart is the most important because Proverbs says that from the heart the life go out.
Entonces, la gente adora parcialmente en el domingo, produce las acciones.
Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say. What I see from the Sunday keepers, they don't even keep Sunday all the way. Yeah.
Guardar para un católico, guardar el domingo es solamente ir al servicio en ese rato y es todo. Ya.
For Catholics, to keep the Sunday for them is just to attend the Mass and you can go about your day.
And also it says in the Bible, obedience is better than sacrifice.
Y en la Biblia dice que obediencia es mejor que un sacrificio.
Okay, let's go to C. Despite its cunning methods, how would this power be brought to an end? Daniel 8:25. I'll read this one. And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand.
Y dice, a pesar de sus astutos métodos, ¿cómo llegaría este poder a su fin? Tenemos Daniel 8:25, dice, en su sagacidad hará prosperar el engaño en su mano y en su corazón se engrandecerá y con paz destruirá a muchos y contra el príncipe de los príncipes se levantará, mas su mano será quebrantada.
So, any thoughts?
Just like we mentioned before, that here it's saying that how did Antiochus, however you pronounce his name, history tells us that he died of a disease. So it wasn't by the hand of any man, right? He wasn't killed by anyone. So in a similar way, the Antichrist will be dealt with, right? Not by any individual, but only by the striking of Jesus, which is also mentioned in Revelation chapter 19, verse 20. And so kind of like Sister Daisy had mentioned earlier, that how did Alexander the Great die? No one killed him. He basically created his own ruin. The same thing with Caesar. Same thing with the Pharaoh when he was trying to kill Moses and everyone who had left. They hardened their hearts so much that they created, you can say, a disease, right? The disease is pride, is ego, that they basically kill themselves because of their, when you're separated from God, from Jesus, you only create ruin, right? And so kind of like going to the question, right, how only separation through God is how those who are trying to destroy God's people, right, are going to meet their end.
Entonces la hermana dijo que aquí en los versículos podemos ver, vamos a ver que también lo que destruyó es you were talking about the Pope, right?
Antiochus.
What's it called?
Thought he was a ruler.
Yeah. Así como el rey Antíoco, él fue murió por una enfermedad. Una enfermedad. Y también podemos ver que los Alejandro el Magno y César, ellos murieron también por sus faltas de carácter, o sea, no fue un algo más que los mató, sino ellos mismos, sus decisiones con sus carácter y su temperancia fue los que los trajo a su ruina.
So, any more comments before we go to Wednesday? The 2020 2,300 days. A. What conversation did Daniel overhear concerning the experience of time covered by the event of the vision, and what would take place at the end of the time period? Daniel 8, 13, and 14.
Estamos en miércoles, dice los 2300 días. ¿Qué conversación escuchó Daniel acerca del tiempo abarcado por la visión y qué sucedería al final del periodo? Daniel 8, 13 al 14.
Y oía un santo que hablaba y otro de los santos dijo, aquel que hablaba, ¿hasta cuándo durará la visión del continuo sacrificio y la prevaricación asoladora que pone el santuario y el ejército para ser aullados? Y él dijo, hasta 2300 tardes y mañanas y el santuario será purificado.
The verses say in Daniel 8, 13 through 14, and then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto them that certain saint which spoke, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden under foot? And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed.
Any thoughts? Comments? Let's go to B. What anti-typical event was foreshadowed by the cleansing of the sanctuary as illustrated in the ceremonial law and foretold in Daniel's vision? So we got a number of texts. Leviticus 23, 27 through 32, Leviticus 16:33, and Leviticus 16:34.
It's about the Day of Atonement for the people of Israel. And that day was to repent and to confess the sins before God.
La pregunta dice, ¿qué evento antitípico, gracias, fue prefigurado por la purificación del santuario, tal como se ilustraba en la ley ceremonial y se predijo en la visión de Daniel? Tenemos esos versículos y
Está hablando acerca del día de expiación, que se hacía una vez al año para la purificación del santuario.
Okay. Any more thoughts and questions?
Also, it's very important to know that, no sé si lo diré en español, es importante, ¿verdad?, que el día de la expiación se hacía una vez al año para poder quitar y limpiar todos los pecados que habían ahí acumulados.
it was very important that Passover happened because it would remove the sins of the people.
Y Cristo también se prefiguraba cuando Él iba a venir a esta vez a poder redimirnos del pecado.
And Christ also had to go through this when he came to this earth to redeem us.
Ahí habla que dice que Él iba a ser como el sumo sacerdote en el cielo.
In the verses it says that Christ would be the high priest in heaven.
¿Qué obra está haciendo Cristo ahorita por nosotros allá en el cielo?
And what is Christ doing for us right now in heaven?
La expresión. La expresión.
Okay. En el santuario, ¿verdad? Sabemos que dice que también está un santuario en el cielo y Cristo está allá como sumo sacerdote.
In the verses it says that Christ is in heaven in the heavenly sanctuary, the heavenly temple, and that he is performing the duties of the high priest.
Entonces, si Él está haciendo la obra de sumo sacerdote y llega el día de la expiación, ¿verdad?, que tiene que rezarse también.
And if Christ is the high priest and he has to do the duties of the Passover,
¿Cuál es la obra del pueblo? ¿Qué es lo que tenía que hacer el pueblo?
what should the people do?
Tenía que arrepentirse y confesar todos sus pecados.
They had to repent and confess their sins.
Para que así, cuando se hacía el día de la expiación, el sacerdote no muriera y también la persona fuera perdonada de su pecado.
So once the day of Passover came, there would be no sins, the high priest wouldn't die, and their sins would be forgiven.
Es decir, que nosotros debemos ahorita, en este tiempo que estamos ahorita nosotros aquí, debemos de prepararnos porque se está haciendo un juicio en el cielo.
And that means for us today that we need to search our hearts and express these sins as well, since this work is also being done in heaven.
Que se le llama el juicio investigador.
And a judgment will be taking place in heaven, the investigative justice.
¿Cómo se dice? De acto, investigations, algo así. Y a nosotros, como dice aquí, si nosotros tenemos que estar preparados porque si tenemos un pecado, vamos a hacerle tareas faltas.
And if we need to prepare ourselves, because if a sin is found within us, then we will die.
Tenemos que pedirle a Dios que nos muestre qué pecado estamos haciendo.
We need to ask God for Him to show us these faults and sins we have.
Porque podemos creer que estamos bien, todos.
Because we can think that we're doing fine, everyone.
Pero por un pecado que cometamos, vamos a perder.
But for one sin, we can lose ourselves.
Entonces tenemos que escudriñar nuestro corazón.
We have to search our hearts
Y pedirle a Dios que nos muestre qué estamos haciendo mal.
and ask God for His showing of us of our sins.
Porque muchas veces sabemos lo que estamos haciendo mal.
But many times we already know what we're doing wrong.
La mayoría de las veces sí sabemos cuando estamos obrando pues, en contra de la ley.
You know, most of the times we do know when we're going against God's law.
Pero nos queremos hacer ciegos.
But we try to blind ourselves
Engañarnos a nosotros mismos.
and deceive ourselves.
Y eso es lo más fácil. Eso es lo más fácil, engañarnos a nosotros mismos.
And that's the easiest thing to
Creer que con ese pecado pequeñito voy a entrar al cielo.
believe that with that small little sin that we'll be able to enter heaven.
Y es cerrado, no es cierto.
And it's closed, it's not true.
No, nos vamos a perder.
We will not be saved.
And the only sin that cannot be forgiven is the ignoring of the Holy Spirit.
Rejecting.
Yeah.
Y el único pecado que no es perdonable es que rechacemos al Espíritu Santo.
See, what did the angel say concerning the 2300 prophecy? Daniel 8:26.
¿Y qué dijo el ángel respecto a la profecía de los 2300 días? Daniel 26.
It's the longest prophecy in the Bible.
Dice en español, I'll read the verse in Spanish. It says, y la visión de la tarde y la mañana que está dicha es verdadera, y tú guarda la visión porque es para muchos días. And if someone would like to read it in English.
I'll read it in English. And the vision of the evening and the morning, which was told is true. Wherefore shut thou up the vision, for it shall be for many days. And in Bible prophecy, a day is a year. So it's really 2,300 years.
2,300.
Yes, 2,300 years. So any thoughts and comments? Before we go to Thursday. A vision partly understood. A, what was the angel Gabriel commissioned to do for Daniel? Daniel 8:15 through 18.
El jueves dice una visión parcialmente entendida. ¿Qué fue comisionado el ángel Gabriel a hacer por Daniel.
To explain the vision.
Yep.
And even there is something very important here, because the angel told him. Let's see, I'm gonna read the verse.
El ángel fue comisionado a enseñarle a Daniel.
And the verse 17, it says, "Understand, O son of man, for at the time of the end shall be the vision." It means that the vision is not for the time of Daniel. It is not for the time of the Jewish people.
En el versículo 17 dice, entiende, hijo de hombre, porque la visión será para el tiempo del fin.
Not for the time of for the old times.
No para estos tiempos viejos que estábamos estudiando.
It's for the time of the end. When is the time of the end? Now, today. We know that we are on the time of the end.
Es para los últimos días y esos días son ahora.
So any more comments before we go to B? Despite a thorough exploration being given for many other details, what was Daniel's reaction after hearing about the time prophecy of the 2,300 days? Daniel 8:27.
Dice, a pesar de recibir explicación de muchos detalles, ¿cuál fue la reacción de Daniel a oír la profecía de los 2,300 días?
And I'll read this one. And I, Daniel, fainted and was sick certain days. After I rose up and did the king's business, and I was astonished at the vision, but none understood it.
Dice, y yo Daniel desfallecí y estuve enfermo algunos días, y cuando convalecí, entendí el asunto del rey, mas yo estaba espantado acerca de la visión y no había quien la entendiese. So it really scared him. It really shook him to his core. Lo espantó mucho.
So, any more thoughts and comments before we end this?
¿Algunos comentarios?
Well, this prophecy is very important, for it was, for the people in the time with Jesus. It covered, from Daniel, after Daniel, and all the way into Jesus born, right? Because he was talking about, the Jew people, it was 70 weeks for them, but also
70 years of captivity.
and also it was explained also about in the time when Jesus is gonna come to this earth, right? It was talking about, the time when Jesus is gonna come over here on this earth and he's gonna born, and then, after, a few years he's gonna be crucified and die and then resurrect.
Que esa fue lo que supo Daniel.
Sí, abarca esa profecía de los 300 días.
So, sí, entonces lo que escuchó Daniel, las revelaciones de Daniel fueron desde el tiempo de su vida, después de la vida de Jesús y años después.
But they don't understand, this prophecy. That's why, in the time when Jesus came, they don't believe, that Jesus was the king, because they've been waiting, for a different type of king. With a lot of glory, people meant that everybody knows him. But Jesus, he born, in a very humble home. And so when he came preaching that he was the Messiah, they don't believe him. So we have to be careful. That's why it's very important for us that we have to study, the prophecies. Because another time, when Jesus is going to come, is about to happen. But then, remember, as we just talked in the beginning, Satan, he always tried to falsify, or how is it, to falsificar?
Counterfeit?
Falsify?
Falsify?
Falsify, everything that Jesus or God, does. So in the last about to, we are living, Jesus is gonna come, for second time. But Satan is gonna also send a false Messiah, a false Christ to this earth, the Antichrist. And that's why we have to be very careful. We have to see, how it's gonna be, Jesus when he came to this earth.
Entonces los judíos interpretaron estas profecías que había tenido Daniel sobre Jesús porque pensaron que iba a ser un rey, un rey físico para ellos. Y por no escudriñar y no abrir sus corazones fueron que malentendieron esto y no aceptaron a Jesucristo como su Salvador. Entonces tenemos que tener esto mucho en cuenta porque estas visiones y esas profecías nos impactan mucho a nosotros hoy también.
And my thoughts and wishes that we take these prophecies very seriously and we take the time to understand them.
Es mi pedido y oración que hayamos entendido y escudriñar aún más estas profecías.
Amén.
Amen.
Brother Aaron.